Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That's right, we're ranking The Wild Robot. The Wild Robot is a 2024 American animated science fiction survival film based on the book series of the same name by Peter Brown. In the film, Roz, a robot shipwrecked on an inhabited island, must adapt to her surroundings, build relationships with the local wildlife, and become the adoptive mother of an orphaned goose. Something I've really enjoyed about doing this YouTube channel is it has made me watch movies I never would have watched previously. The trailer to this movie seemed very uninteresting. Honestly, trailers sometimes don't do justice at all because there's several of them throughout the year that have not been that good, but I've gone and watched some movies because of this channel and they were really good. This is no exception. I really enjoyed this movie. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it. I thought it was just going to be okay, and maybe that aspect of not knowing what you're going to get makes these movies better. But no matter what, I'm having a good time. This movie was a good time. Let's jump right into those 10 essential aspects of a movie and explain why this movie caught me off guard as being so good. First is plot. Does the movie follow a comprehensive story arc and is plausible within the world that has been created? The plot of this movie, it's just okay. There's aspects within the plot that make it better, but overall, from afar, the story arc is mediocre. There's nothing crazy or new about it. It's just the way that it was performed that made it better than it was gonna be. Honestly, I found it quite boring at times, but it is a kids movie at heart, and a lot of the tones of the movie are happy. There are times when it's not very happy and it's purposefully done. But as far as the plot goes, it's nothing crazy. It's nothing super unique or interesting, but it's good enough. It's a very typical kid's story. Second is attraction. Does the movie have an interesting premise with a high entertainment value? Not really, not to me. I didn't see this movie as being something I would watch. Like I said from the trailer, it wasn't that attractive. There was nothing unique about it that was really pulling me in. That being said, now that I've seen the movie, I could tell a person who has not seen it that there are definite aspects of this movie that are attractive. But if you haven't seen it, you're not going to see those things. So you kind of it has to rely on the feedback of the audience, which I do think is occurring. I think it's had a slow box office weekend, couple weekends, but I think that'll grow because this movie is going to get a lot of praise, rightfully so. But I would say at first, the movie is not that attractive. It's not that appealing or unique. Third is theme. What message or truth is the movie trying to convey? Now, this is where the movie really hit hard for me, and I was not expecting it to. There's a lot of great things that are messaged throughout this movie. Overall, it's really a movie about parenting. I believe that's the relationship that is most prevalent, but throughout the story there are a million little things that you could get from this movie. And I'm not talking just a parent, but just as a person, just as a kid. There's a bunch of little things. I would say for children, there's a message about perseverance. There's a message about how you may not start at the top, but through hard work you can get to where you want to be. And it's not going to be easy, and nobody may believe in you but one person, but really all you need is for you to believe in yourself. But as far as just a person, there's a lot of community messages in here where different aspects of nature working with each other when they really shouldn't. There's some underlying messages about community and how things work better when people work together for a common goal. And as a parent, there's a lot of messages in here about learning how to deal with your children, dealing with emotions that come with raising children, especially the emotion of not knowing what the hell you're doing or feeling overwhelmed. All these things are addressed, and they're addressed in such they're so well done. They're not forced. They're subtle. They're in the background, but they're very easy to see, and they're very easy to draw out what the director is trying to tell you, and I loved it. It really created an emotional aspect to this movie that a lot of movies just can't do, and this one did it really, really well. So I would say the theme of this movie is one of the better ones that I've watched in a long time, and I believe is one of the reasons this movie is so good. Fourth is dialogue. Is there a real feel to the conversations? The dialogue is exactly what you would expect out of a kid's movie. Honestly, it's just fine. There's nothing really to say about it other than I would say the fox in this movie, I did not like whenever he was in it. I thought he was kind of a useless character. I think he had some role to play, but he just had a lot of very cringy dialogue and a lot of the same dialogue throughout the entire movie, and I just found him a little annoying. But other than that, that's being nitpicky. Everybody else is fine. The dialogue is exactly what you expect out of a kid's movie. Fifth is acting. Are the characters convincing? Now, obviously, this is an animated film, so acting is only done with the voice. I would say there's no real scenes in here that I paid attention, and it drew my attention that the voice acting was just really well done. It's fine. You know, you don't notice any of them. There's several well-known names in this movie, and they do a good job of masking their typical voice and portraying another character. Even though I knew who some of the characters were, if I didn't know them before, I don't think I would have surmised that that person was voiced by that actor or actress. So that was done really well, but I don't think there was any scenes where anybody did some vocal acting that was just really noticeable. Six is cinematography. Is there creative use of lighting, setting, and wardrobe to convey emotion? This is where another aspect of this movie where it kills it. It's amazing. It's what makes this movie really, really good in my book. Visually, I would say it was a breath of fresh air. I feel kids' movies have really hit a kind of stagnant portrayal, that semi-realism, not realism that Disney does pretty much with all their movies lately. I really enjoyed the art style of this movie. It was really appealing to look at the entire time. Lots of colors. The character designs were cool. It was like the whole movie was painted essentially, and I just loved it. I thought it looked amazing. Emotionally, it was also just so well done. And again, it was just something I was not expecting out of this movie. But it's a movie that, I ain't gonna lie, it made me tear up a little bit, and I think as an adult, you're gonna have trouble. You're gonna be watching the movie going, don't cry, don't cry, because it hits you in the right spots. And personally, the whole family connection, parent connection, I have a strong relationship with my parents, and I want to have a strong relationship with my kids, so it's really hitting those aspects for me and was really emotional. I think even if you don't have children like me, you'll find the emotion, but if you do have children, good luck getting through this movie without crying. They do a great job. And what is great about this movie is that it's not the characters that are making you emotional, it's the situations. And that's what real good movies do, is they make the situations personal. Even though you may not have experienced what's going on, you can put yourself in their shoes, even the shoes of a robot or a fox or whatever character you want to. That's when cinema is really beautiful, and it's really well done in this movie. I enjoyed it so much. It was a really high point for me, and what elevated this movie, because honestly, I felt it was boring for the most part, but cinematically, emotion-wise, man, it does a really good job. Seventh is editing. This is all about the pace of the movie. The movie is an hour and 42 minutes long. It's a good time. I can't really complain about it. Personally, I probably would have gone shorter, but that's just because there's aspects of this movie that were boring to me, and I was bored and was waiting. Towards the end, I was waiting for it to wrap up. I was trying to figure out when it was going to end. That's just because I was a little bored throughout the movie, but it's really not that long. I don't think it's too long. I probably would have preferred it to be a little shorter. Eighth is soundtrack. I felt the soundtrack was more prevalent in this movie than others. Somewhat. I noticed it. There was parts that I took a step back and was like, oh, that's some really good music. The music in here is good, and I think it complements the scenes more than I noticed in the movie because I was just too in my head about the scenes. But I think it complemented it well, does a good job, more than I would say the average movie does. Ninth is directing. Now I feel the director is in charge of the previous 8 aspects. They're the ones that have got to give it their seal of approval, put it all together, make a really good movie. Now the director of this movie is Chris Sanders. Technically this is his 5th movie. His first movie was Lilo and Stitch. Then How to Train Your Dragon. Third was The Croods. Next was The Call of the Wild. And finally, The Wild Robot. Now, for his first 3 films, he did co-direct, and I don't really know how well that. I don't know how that works. I don't know how often it's really 50-50. I'm gonna imagine there's usually somebody who has been doing it for a long time, and the other director is just somebody that is directing, but getting the help, being taught. Has somewhat of an input, so I can't really judge those first 3 movies. I've never watched The Call of the Wild, which was his first solo directing job. All I can base this on is this movie, and honestly, I think he did a really good job. Now, he's got that little bit extra to make him just great, make him absolutely fantastic. I feel he's got to learn to make it a little more entertaining. I was a little bored during this movie, but emotionally, cinematically, he did a fantastic job. I thought the art design he ran with was just awesome and was a nice breath of fresh air on uniqueness. The story was not that unique, but the way he told it emotionally for a kids movie was really, really good. I mean, I think he honestly made this a movie for adults that kids just happen to be entertained by. He did a really good job. I'm excited to see if he ever directs anything else, what he can do. I'd actually be more interested if he did something that wasn't kid friendly, and just see what kind of avenue he could go with that. 10th is time. Will it stand the test of time? Quite often, I don't think movies stand the test of time unless they're absolute classics. This movie, I do think it will stand the test of time. I do think it will be somewhat of a classic. It doesn't seem by popularity that it's going to be a movie that a ton of people know about or watched. However, if you have, I think it will stick with you. And what's great about this movie, and why I say it will stand the test of time, is that no matter what age you are, when you go to watch it again, if you've aged, you will find something different out of this movie. I'm somebody who's not a parent yet, but I feel if I became a parent and watched this movie, there's things about it I didn't recognize now that I will recognize then, and especially as a kid going into a teenager to an adult. All those, I feel every time you watch this movie, you're going to take something different out of it. And that to me is a sign of a really great movie, and those really great movies stand the test of time. Now for the review section. Rotten Tomatoes critics gives it a 97. The audience gives it a 98. And IMDb gives it an 85. Now, I can understand why people are giving it such praise, because I just feel it really came out of nowhere, and it quite honestly is just a really, really well done movie, and it's really a movie I felt has not been done like this for kids in a while, especially to this emotional level. I really enjoyed it, but I can't put it on 97, 98 range. It's just too high. It was boring to me. It's not a movie I'm going to be able to easily throw back on, which to me, those upper echelons of movies, those high 90 movies, they do both things. They're great in entertainment and cinematically. You're going to watch it a million times, and you're going to love everything about it. This movie, it does have some faults in the entertainment section. So 85 I feel is really fair for this movie. I might even go upper 80s, but Compared to every movie ever made, this is a really, really good movie, and a high B is, I feel, a really good score. Alright, finally for the rankings. For 2024, on the entertainment side, out of 17 total movies, I'm going to have it 8th, just below Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and above Twisters. Now, it's below Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Honestly, the entertainment side, that's a hard time for the audience, because if you don't think like me, if you don't like things I like, we're gonna have a very different entertainment side. There's things to argue, but really it's a personal preference, and I just really enjoy the Planet of the Apes franchise. That movie is honestly not amazing. There's definitely better movies, but I would go to watch that again before The Wild Robot. It's a kid's movie, but I was somewhat bored. And Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, it's just an idea that I enjoy more. It's really just a personal preference on my end. I've got it above Twisters just because Twisters, that is pretty much the definition of a mid-movie for me, especially on entertainment-wise. I'm just going to watch it just to watch some destruction, and that's a very middle movie for me. This movie I will watch again just for, not only for the emotional aspect, but the visual aspect. Those are things that will pull to me, and I feel will make me want to watch this movie more than Twisters. Cinematically, out of 17 movies, I've actually got it first, just above Civil War. Now, Civil War, that's a great movie. I thought it did some great things emotionally. Visually, I thought it did some daring, good things. But it did not have me emotionally attached like The Wild Robot did. And, the two big things I key on about cinematography, the things that I feel represent film, is a unique visual perspective, something that makes me want to watch it again just to look at it. It doesn't even matter about the story. And two, the emotional side. Can it make me feel those feelings about the characters? If you've got me that invested in the characters or into your message, then that's exactly what I think cinema is about, and that's what this movie does. And emotionally, it hit me harder than Civil War, and I do feel that it's more unique than Civil War. The visuals are really well done. It's a really good story. It's heartwarming. Those things I just love about it, and I honestly feel represents cinema as an art better than Civil War. For the decade of the 2020s, on the entertainment side, out of 18 total movies, it's going to be 8th again, just below Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but this time above Gran Turismo. Now, again, Gran Turismo is just like a little bit better than Twisters for me, so it's kind of the same deal with Twisters. I will go back for the emotional side of this movie more than I will go back to watch Gran Turismo. I would watch Gran Turismo again, but again, it's just a little bit of that entertainment side, and honestly, just the kind of the car guy in me that just enjoys racing. But the racing aspect of that movie isn't even that great. It's kind of the other aspects of the movie that make it better. I just feel The Wild Robot's got more of a pull on me. I would rather watch it for that emotional side, that visual side, than Gran Turismo. Cinematically, it's still first, just above Civil War. Don't really need to explain that again. It's the exact same reasons. For all time, out of 24 total movies so far, on the entertainment side, it's going to be 13th, just below Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes again, and above Gran Turismo. It's the exact same reasons it was before. I just need to get some more movies in here that aren't from 2024 and get some differences up in here. For cinematography, all time, out of 24 movies, I've got it first, above No Country for Old Men. No Country for Old Men has some great acting. It's got some good dialogue. It's got some really interesting characters there, mainly the villain character. But it honestly doesn't even really come that close. I think The Wild Robot does so much of a better job emotionally and visually, is much more appealing and unique than No Country for Old Men. Surprisingly, this movie is by far a number one for me all time, and quite honestly, it's going to be hard to compete against this movie. You're going to have to do a lot of things right. That's what I love about doing this channel, is finding movies like this where, this is cinematically so far the best movie I've ever watched, and I would not have expected that, and I never would have watched this movie. So if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you watch it. If you have watched it, comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are about it. Did it hit you as hard emotionally as it did for me? I'd love to know. If you have any other movies that you'd like for me to watch and rank, make sure you comment them below. Subscribe if you want to see more rankings done by me. Otherwise, I'm Mr. Majoritarian. Stay classy, San Diego.